The tow chain tightened around my front axle. The orange beacon washed my porch in that cheap carnival glow, and the HOA president smiled at my kids like a hall monitor who finally caught a senior skipping class. Clipboard up, voice flat. Non-compliant to homeowners. Don't get privileges, pay $24.50 in fines. Or we lien your house. And in that moment, something in me stopped translating nonsense into authority and just said no. My name is Avery Brooks. I moved to Cedar Hollow in Lakewood, Colorado for quiet cul-de-sac evenings and tomato plants that don't judge. I'm a spreadsheets person, a mom who likes a tidy lawn. And coffee on the porch, not a rebel, not a fighter, just someone who asks for the page number. When a rule sounds made up, you know what I mean. The first time Linda Carver appeared at my door, it was 5:58 a.m. She squared up to my doorbell camera, like it was a witness stand, and slid a pink slip into my hand, violation section. 7.2, unapproved flower colors. While my gold and red tulips glowed like small suns behind her. I laughed because the other option was to faint, and she tapped her pen and said, "Festive Cedar Hollow maintains an earth tone palette to protect property values." And I nodded, told her I'd read the bylaws, which turned out to be my first mistake. Then came the fines, like morning weather. A photo stamped 4:12 p.m. of my trash can. Mid-pull behind the fence, $75 for visible receptacle. $50 for a mailbox wreath, hung too early. $40 for chalk, hopscotch labeled defacement. And every notice arrived before sunrise, so I'd start the day already small, and I told myself to pick my battles, make peace, crack a joke on the phone to my sister about how some people love clipboards, the way other people love dogs. I brought printed bylaws to the meeting like a peace offering. Folding chairs, humming AC coffee that tasted like it served in the Gulf War. And when I said, I can't find anything in 7.2 that bans seasonal tulips, Linda smiled that tight smile people wear, right before a slap, and said, "Rules keep values up. If you can't comply." Maybe Cedar Hollow isn't a fit. And a few neighbors looked at their shoes because everybody knows the script. Keep your head down and pay. Then she stopped pretending it was about rules and started using shame. Our pool fob went dead on a Saturday with 2 kids in swimsuits and a cooler of grapes. Our dues were paid. And that afternoon, an email hit the listserv about a resident who refuses standards no address, but everyone knew. And I felt the tilt the moment the policy mask slips, and you see the person holding it. 2 mornings later, I heard a soft thud at 5:47. Then the wet slide of egg yolk tied my robe. Opened the door, and there she was, crouched at my neighbor Ethan's door, flicking eggs at his siding head, cocked toward my porch like she wanted an audience, and I said, "Linda put the carton down, steady as a metronome, because panic never solved math or people." She flinched. Embarrassment flashed. Then pride won. People like you. Poison neighborhoods. She said to my camera, not my face, and I repeated people like me, not a question more like a mirror. And across the street, Ethan stepped out in work boots, lunch cooler in one hand, and his phone in the other. "Got it," he said, no speech, just a lens. And she lobbed another egg that missed my cheek by a foot and exploded on the welcome mat, and yeah, that happened. And I shut the door, not to hide, but to stop giving her a stage. I started a binder tabs and receipts and screenshots, because boring is powerful when the other side is loud. I printed every notice, circled timestamps, paired each claim with the actual bylaw. I called Lakewood Code. Enforcement and Officer Daniels said, vandalism is not an HOA function file. A report. I did case number went in the binder. Then I called Alicia Gomez, an HOA and fair housing attorney, and she said, selective enforcement is a pattern, not a moment. So keep gathering. If they cut services, we call retaliation and go to the meeting. Don't yell, ask questions on the record, which is basically my spiritual practice. That week, a neon tag appeared under my wiper, unregistered overnight parking, even though my registration lives in my glove box. Like a proud little passport, I scanned it, emailed the board. Secretary, Elliot. CC'd the chair, Caleb attached. Bylaw 4.3 wrote, this appears retaliatory. Please advise. And Elliot replied, received, which is bureaucrat for. I just woke up. The meeting felt like a low-pressure system moving in chairs, filled phones half hidden in laps, and I waded through mulch budgets and pool heater drama, then asked on. What authority did you deactivate my fob? And Linda tapped her gavel and said, privileges are provisional, and I slid my statement across the table and said, 10.1 says suspension is for unpaid dues. Mine are current, and the room leaned forward like a single person. And then Ethan stood and said, I have something. And he plugged his phone into the projector, and the dawn video filled the wall. Linda crouched with a half-empty carton muttering, people like you. And the sound the room made was not quite a gasp, more like a long-held muscle, unclenching, and Linda tried to salvage it with filming. Me doesn't change the rules. Ms. Brooks undermines me, and I said rules. Don't need eggs, and Caleb cleared his throat and said, we'll schedule an emergency session. The next morning, she escalated to theater, and we returned to the hook tow truck. Orange strobe, my kid's on the porch driver doing his job order from Cedar Hollow office. He says, chain on. And Linda appears like a cue. Non-compliant homeowners don't get privileges. And I say, per 4.3, you need notice and a hearing before towing. Here is yesterday's certified mail receipt showing no notice served, and the driver freezes mid-motion because no one wants to be Exhibit E in a lawsuit. Elliot jogs up. Tie askew reads the paper, looks from me to her, to the truck, says, don't tow, and the driver unhooks. With that half shrug, all service people share when management changes its mind at the curb. The emergency session hits capacity people who haven't spoken at a meeting in years. Line the back wall with their phones low and ready, and I don't give a speech. I lay down paper, Exhibit A trash can. At 4:12, with my hand on the handle, Exhibit B. Fob suspended with dues paid. Exhibit C egg. Video at 5:47. Exhibit D. Tow order without notice, and the shift is physical. The room stops being audience and becomes witness, and then Janine raises a trembling hand and says she was fined for a spring wreath and told people like, you never follow rules. And Omar says he got threatened over a little free library, and Mrs. Lopez says her white holiday lights were labeled too bright after 10 p.m., and the board stops looking at me and starts looking at the neighborhood it's supposed to serve. Linda stands with both hands white on the table without strict enforcement. This place becomes a dump. If you side with her, you destroy property values, she says. Binder, slam papers, jump, phones, tilt, and I don't raise my voice because calm travels farther. Enforcement isn't humiliation. Leadership isn't vandalism. Nobody bought into Cedar Hollow to be treated like a problem to solve, And Caleb says per bylaws, 12.4 and 12.7. We can move to remove the president and refer the vandalism report to the city. And Elliot says second. And hands go up like birds finally taking off at once, and the count is less a landslide than a release. And Caleb taps the gavel once and says, motion passes. And what happens next is not a victory parade. It's gravity doing what gravity does. Elliot slides the gavel away from Linda. She stands. Chair legs scrape a paperclip. Pops and skitters. No one claps, we just breathe, because relief is quieter than joy. And we file out to a night that smells like damp concrete, and a new rule we can live with. The next morning, the air is lighter. Neighbors wave without the don't get me involved face kids. Chalk the sidewalk again, and my phone fills with messages that call me a hero and a troublemaker. In equal measure, which is America in a nutshell, and I sit with my binder and a glass of water, and the simple fact that I did not win because I could fight. I won because I did not have to, because paper beats posture, because asking for the page number is not rudeness, it's citizenship. I know the comments will split. Some will say, I should have complied to keep the peace. Some will say, HOAs protect property values. And folks like me are the problem, and others will say, systems like this turn decent people into hall monitors with gavels. And maybe the truth sits somewhere messier, because rules matter, until they become weapons. And then they are not rules anymore, they're habits. You have to break. So tell me where you land. Was I right to push back, or did I break the peace by insisting on process? Do HOAs save neighborhoods, or just save the people in charge from being questioned? Have you ever been fined into silence or shamed into compliance? And what did you do about it? Drop your story in the comments. Argue with me. Teach me something I missed. And if this hit a nerve, like it did in my driveway that morning, hit like, so it reaches the next person who needs a nudge. Subscribe if you want more real stories told by people who actually lived them. And yeah, I'll be in the comments binder. Open, ready to hear yours.